Hey guys, it's been a long time since I've done a concert review, but I'm back. I went to a show. I went to Lee's Palace in Toronto, downtown Toronto, to see Wolves in the Throne Room, Braid, Guerrilla, and Hoax. These four bands are touring across North America right now. They've played 5 shows. They're going to be in Montreal next. These are the only 2 Canadian dates. Then they're heading back to the US for a bunch of more dates. So check out the description of this video. All of those dates will be there, so that way you can find out exactly where they're playing, and then you can pick up some tickets and go see them. But before you do that, check out this review and let me tell you how the night went. First of all, the place was packed. Maybe not packed right from the get-go. When Hoax went on stage, I would say the house was about, not half, but very close to half. But by the time Guerrilla came on stage, the place was packed. And it was hot. It was packed, it was steamy, a lot of people. As you would expect, a metal show. The body odor was at an all-time high. Let me tell you that. I think that's why a lot of these black metal bands use incense. It's just kind of to kill the bad aroma, to kill the bad juju that's in the room, kind of refreshing our noses, refreshing our minds with a better smell than the one that's perhaps surrounding us. So Hoax went on, first band of the night. I had seen them before. I discovered this band when I went to see them with Amorphous the last time they did a North American tour. And since then they released their debut album on Relapse, and this for me, maybe not as intimate as the performance that I saw from them before, because the venues were completely different. This venue, there's a little bit more separation between the bands and the audience versus the last time I saw them, but that didn't really play that much of a factor. I love their music, I love this band. Their album was in my top 10 albums for 2022, and I was just really smitten by these ladies. They're absolutely phenomenal. I've said this a million times if you've heard me talk about Hoax, how much I love the drum sound, but I also love the vocals, I love the guitars. The bass sounded really good tonight, and I felt like their set, because they had a very limited amount of time, I think 25 minutes, they really had to go through the song, so there was no time to interact with the audience. I'm not really sure if that's kind of their thing anyways, but they were there, they took a professional approach, played as many songs as they could for the fans, and I really loved it. And I loved it because they took a different approach on some of the tracks. Perfect example, Guilty Ones. They added harsh vocals in the chorus, a little bit from their bass player, something that's not in the original track. I love this. I don't know why more bands don't take this approach of changing certain little things when they're performing the songs live to make them a live experience, a unique experience. If I want to listen to a track exactly the way it is on the record, I'll go listen to the record. So I like bands that take this kind of approach. Maybe improvise on the solo or change something here, change something there. I mean, for the better, not for the worse, obviously. So when I saw that from them, I was like, all right, here's a band that has an old school approach to live performance, who understands what a live performance should be all about, and then delivers. I love their set. I picked up a shirt. I always support bands when they come by Toronto, when they play in Toronto, specifically some of the more smaller bands that are opening. They could really use that money in order to pay for gas and get by, let's face it. So do the same, try to support these bands as much as you can, obviously. So I really enjoyed their set. I was happily surprised with those little add-ons, those little nuances, and that was a great way to get the night started. After them comes Guerrilla, a band from Portugal, black metal band. Last time I saw them was maybe not a couple of months, maybe I'm exaggerating, but I saw them last year with Rotting Christ in Toronto at the same venue, and I thought that this time around, considering that the difference between Hoax and them is that I saw them in different venues, but this time around watching them perform at the same venue that I had seen them perform before, and that was my first time when I saw them with Rotting Christ, I gotta say this was a far better performance by them, far better. I don't know if it's the fact that it's not their first time touring in North America now. This is their second tour. They have some experience under their belt from that Rotting Christ tour. This is a venue that they performed in before, so there's that sense of familiarity with the space, with what you can do, with what things can offer. And I must say, the crowd was insane. They were really into it. I'm almost 100% sure a lot of the people that went there today had seen them before with Rotting Christ. And I talked to some of the guys from the band, and they told me that most of their listens on Spotify come from North America. So these guys definitely have a huge North American presence. and I love the show. I thought this was by far a much better performance than what I saw with Rotting Christ. A much looser performance, even more organic than the one before, and the one before was very organic. Guillermo on stage, it's a show within the show. I've said this to him, I've said this before. I love that. Once again, bringing a sense of artistry to the stage. You're not just singing, you're not just playing your songs, you're taking the next step, which is creating a visual performance that represents what your music does when you put your vinyl on in your house. When you put your vinyl on, you're listening to it. When you go see them live, it's the next level. It's the visual performance of what you heard. So I honestly feel like they're one of the bands that really does it well, and they are able to connect with the audience at that level, which makes the performance even more powerful, even more interesting, even more engaging. Next came Black Braid. I think they're one of the hottest bands of the moment, at least in black metal. I saw these guys also just a couple of months ago. I think it was in September that I saw them. No, it was before September. In the summertime, sometime in the summer. I can't remember exactly. But they were on tour with Dark Funeral and Cattle Decapitation and 200 Stab Wounds. So I saw them on that tour run. That was my first time seeing them. The album Black Braid 2 wasn't out yet at that time. Since then, they also released their second record. And you could also tell from them, this was also a better performance, even though this is a much smaller venue and a much smaller stage than what they had last time they were in Toronto. But I think being on the road, playing shows, going to Europe, playing shows there, all of that in a short period of time has really developed their game as far as knowing what to do, where they are on stage, how can they bring the audience on board to their music, how they can become a little bit more artistic with how they showcase their art, showcase their music. And when you look at all of those moving pieces, this also felt like a much stronger performance, a more professional performance, not as, with not as much room for error. It didn't feel like they were nervous. It felt like they were super comfortable. They were in their environment. It's almost like we've done this before, we know what to do, and we're just going to do it. That's exactly how it comes across. And when a band goes on stage, it puts out a performance with that kind of backdrop in mind, it's always going to be a great performance, because it's easy for the audience to feel connected. It's easy for the audience to see that natural flow of how the set list goes, of how the songs move. And there was also a lot of people there. There was a lot of fans there for Black Braid. These guys, like I said, one of the hottest bands right now in black metal. Last but definitely not least, you have Wolves in the Throne Room. Great stage presence and great stage production, I must say. Not a big stage to work with here in Toronto at Lee's Palace. Hopefully they'll have some bigger stages to work with throughout this tour, but they still did a wonderful job creating a really good backdrop, creating a really good atmosphere, creating a really good scenario, setting the tone for what their music then is going to deliver. I love the smoke machines, the fog, whatever it is that you want to call it, the incense to kill off some of that BO that the venue had. Kudos to them. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. My nose appreciated it, so I'm sure everybody else's noses also appreciated it. And then when you have that kind of vibe, when you have that kind of mood, when you've created that sort of setup, that sort of backdrop, it becomes a lot easier for you to perform, for your songs to come to life, if you will. And these guys, I think this was their first time, at least as far as I can recall, this is their first time performing songs from their new album that came out last year in Canada, in Toronto. So there was a lot to be seen from them. They were a great band, great live band, super tight. My first time seeing them. I know that they toured before with Behemoth, and they played in Toronto before with Behemoth. I wasn't at that show, so this was my first experience with Wolves in the Throne Room. I really liked everything about them. I liked their sound. I like how the vocals came across, their stage presence, stage production. Everything was on par. It felt like a much bigger band than the venues that they're playing in. I had a boss one time that told me that you should dress for the job that you want, not for the job that you have. And I really feel like Wolves in the Throne Room, as far as what they're doing on this tour, they're really putting out a production for the kind of tours that they want, not necessarily for the kind of tours that they have. Kudos for them to do that. I think that's, it's really, I'm tipping my hat to them for taking that approach, not mailing it in. They're the headliners on this tour, and they're acting as such. in terms of what they offer, in terms of the package that they put together and what they bring on stage, not just from a sound quality, vocal quality, and overall performance, but also everything else production-wise that comes with it. Great night by them, great night by everybody involved. All right, so once again, if you want to go check out these bands, they're currently touring across North America, 2 dates in Canada, Montreal, and Toronto. Then it's going to be a bunch of US dates. All of them are going to be in the description of the video. Please go check them out. Pick up a t-shirt, buy something, support these bands. It's hard. It's hard out there, not for a pimp. I'm sure maybe for them too, but it's hard out there for these bands to make a living. It really is. Everybody's putting a hand in their pocket. So besides buying a ticket and attending, if you can pick up a shirt, if you can pick up a patch, whatever it is that you can pick up, it will be extremely appreciated by all, and it helps them stay afloat. It helps them stay on the road. Don't take this for granted. Don't take it for granted. If you enjoy live music, you enjoy aggressive music, you enjoy brutal music, support bands when they come nearby, because you just never know when that's going to be taken away from you. So don't sleep on this tour. Don't sleep on these bands. Go check out. All of them have new records out there. Some newer than others, but they all have new records out there. So go check them out on all those streaming platforms and then pick up a ticket and go see them. I'll see you guys at the next video.